Welcome to another episode of Secure Insights. I'm Nick Kebbell, your host, and this week I'm delighted to introduce a very special guest, Alana Boyajian, who works as the Director of Governance, Risk and Control at the Hilton Hotel Group in the US. Today, Alana will shed light on her remarkable journey so far and provide invaluable advice to the next generation of talent aspiring to make a mark in the cybersecurity industry. She'll dive into the rich transferable skills that are pivotal when transitioning into the cyber industry, and you guessed it, communication and relationship building skills are once again at the top of that list. Alana will also uncover how technology in the hospitality space is evolving at a rapid pace and discusses the challenges posed by the bad actors targeting this industry. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alana, welcome to Secure Insights, the NDK podcast. Thank you for taking the time for coming on and sharing your journey and experience in the GRC world. You're Director of Cybersecurity, GRC for the Hilton Group. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thanks, Nick, for having me here today.
Pleasure. Glad you could join us. So I've done a bit of an intro anyway. Are you okay? You good just to sort of dive into sharing your journey up until now, how you kind of got into the industry, what made you get into the industry, how that went?
Absolutely, sure. So like you mentioned, I'm in the hospitality industry. I work as a director in our cybersecurity GRC practice, which is governance, risk, and compliance. Yeah. And in this role, I'm responsible for programs like phishing and awareness education, data classification compliance, and the riveting space of policies and standards. So exactly. Everyone loves that. So how did I get here? This was never a career that I grew up dreaming about. In fact, I didn't even realize that it was a field that it even existed until about 8 years ago. So when I emerged from college eons ago with a degree in international business, my first job was actually fundraising at a nonprofit. I was thinking that I would go into the microcredit space. I'd done some international travel in Africa for my study abroad, and that is where I was focused. But as things were sort of getting towards the Y2K, I had a lot of friends in the tech space, so I started to learn a little bit more about that. And about 17 years ago, I went back to school to obtain a master's in library and information science, which may seem like a mystery in how that connects into the tech space, but I had a deep interest in taxonomy and knowledge management. Mm-hmm. And that was really gaining a lot of steam in late 90s, early 2000s with the Paper Reduction Act and lots of US regulations. So not getting like super into the weeds of the journey, but I was really trying to figure out what was right for me. And I landed a government contracted role for about 8 years. And I contributed to mission critical systems and projects, which was very rewarding. Just a couple of examples. I worked on a project organizing unstructured information in, I think it was SharePoint 2003, whatever the version one. I did super detailed data mapping and ETL requirements for consolidating massive duplicative databases in the government. And eventually through progressive career steps, I was leading that program. It was a multi-million-dollar application development program. I had 50 team members, and it was great. So I was doing project and program management, leadership, and it had nothing to do with cybersecurity or GRC. So I could share a little bit about how I pivoted into that space and my shift into hospitality. So anyone who's worked in that government space knows that it can be challenging, rewarding, like I mentioned, but it can be a tough environment. There's a lot of regulations. It's a very hierarchical structure. It's very slow to adopt new technologies. So after about 8 years, I really needed a change. And it was really by chance. I just started my job search, and luckily I was asked to join a team in the private sector in hospitality to manage a large cybersecurity project portfolio. And that, to me, was the best opportunity that I did not even know I needed, because I was able to see how all of like all aspects of cybersecurity and the teams, how they work together and engage with the business through the work that I was doing in this portfolio, and at the same time, move the needle on the cybersecurity posture of the organization. So through that experience, I really fell in love with GRC. I was like, what's this little world over here? And what are these people doing? And so I just started to focus all my efforts on making that professional shift from project manager to GRC professional.
We speak to a lot of people, and it seems to be that the sort of the folk that's been in the industry for some time have a similar story to yourself, where, you know, by chance, opportunity, and then you get to sort of tread into a world of cybersecurity and go, yeah, I like that. And I guess what we like to do is, if we just pass the message down to the next generation and to other potential sort of new, you know, candidates in this space, if they wanted to get into GRC, governance, risk and control, from your what you know now as well, and you know, you're at director level, you're in the hospitality for you know, a well-branded organization. What advice would you give them in the sense of, you know, what sort of training to get, where to position themselves, should they get mentors, how do they move to get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. You know, when I was in college, there wasn't a cybersecurity degree. There was computer science and other related fields. But now you can actually major in cybersecurity. There's lots of ways to get education through the university route. And there's also ways to get education through other organizations and groups online that are not as expensive or time consuming. So there's lots of resources on Udemy and LinkedIn. There's lots of groups that like peer groups that are forming. There's lots of people that are pivoting into cybersecurity from all sorts of different spaces. So, you know, I like to say, you know, kind of, you know, find your tribe, find the group that you resonate with, that is inclusive, that supports you in your journey, and hang out with them. And, you know, definitely find the folks that are doing what you want to be doing. And even if you don't know what that is, this is the time to ask all the questions. So, you know, ask, you know, hey, I think I want to be a pen tester, but I'm not really sure what that means and how I would get there. So, you know, you can find someone who is doing the thing that you think that you want to do and learn a little bit about it. And you might find that, yes, that is exactly what you want to do, but then it might also lead into something else. And you might find another role, because what I found is that the cybersecurity field is really broad. There's application security, there's pen testing, there's incident response, there's threat intel, there's vulnerability management. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, there's cloud architecture. There's developers, there's products coming out of cybersecurity teams now that are really driving, you know, data-driven insights. So it's a really cool field, and there's room for a lot of different roles and a lot of different skill sets. And I think for me, when I was looking to move into cybersecurity and specifically GRC from a project management role, there were a lot of transferable skills. So, you know, really looking at what those skills are that you have that can then lead into the role that you're looking for. So in GRC, we manage a lot of projects. We're implementing controls, we're conducting audits, we're building awareness programs, and we're really often the face of cybersecurity to the business. So some of the skills that are important are analytical thinking and problem solving. That's important for, you know, identifying risk, developing solutions, definitely attention to detail. You know, that's another one. And, you know, going back to GRC sort of being potentially the face of cybersecurity to the business, it's communication and relationships. So being able to effectively communicate complex technical requirements to non-technical audiences. I learned a lot of that when I was a requirements analyst. So that's another great skill that I think can pivot right into GRC.
Yeah.
And then as always being agile and adaptable, because the space is changing every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you got there in the sense of communication and relationship building, which is, one of the, or two of the main traits that we hear. And I guess, so, analytical thinking, problem solving, attention to detail, all these things, which are really, really key. And if you've got people coming, they're in completely different industries, they might want to switch industry and they go, yeah, we want to get into that. And, there's, I don't know, however many thousands of openings in cybersecurity weekly, globally, keeps going up. So there's opportunity there. But if you've got people who aren't in it, and great advice, find a tribe, hang out with them, network, ask questions, probe, all that kind of stuff, and make the effort. And there's so much material, YouTube, LinkedIn, online, all that kind of stuff. What, in terms of sort of, if they were going to try and go down the road of taking a certification or some kind of official training, what sort of foundation training sort of space would you advise them to do?
There's a lot of options out there. There's hundreds of certifications. It can be kind of daunting to sort of narrow down to what makes sense. And that's kind of where having a mentor and having folks who are experienced in the space can really help you create that path. But for somebody that's moving into the field, typically the Security Plus is always a good place to start. That's the basic foundations for cybersecurity. There's also, if you are interested in the GRC space, there's the ISACA CISA. For the cybersecurity analyst, there's a CYSA. Some of these have requirements for years of experience in order to get these certifications. And often roles that you're in now, depending on what they are, you might have some transferable experience that you can leverage, even if you're not working on a cybersecurity team. So there's lots of free resources out there too. I always like to talk about LinkedIn Learning because there's a lot out there, and while it is pay gated, a lot of public libraries offer access to LinkedIn Learning. So if you have a library card, check with your library, you might have it.
Yeah, good advice, top advice. Cool. Yeah, good stuff. All makes sense, definitely. I think, I mean, we spoke about it, didn't we, briefly before, but having a mentor is a good idea. Again, we speak to a lot of people that haven't had that opportunity, or they have maybe towards the latter part of their career and realised how beneficial, important that can be. So maybe try and plug in or get mentor or mentors right at the early stage to help you sort of direct left and right, that kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And there are mentors through lots of local organizations, like your local chapter of Women in Cybersecurity or ISACA or whatever organization you're in. They may offer mentorship programs, or even if you go to one of their free events, you could even network and connect with somebody who would love to be your mentor. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. It could be someone that you just sort of bounce ideas off of from time to time, or if you do want a more formal relationship, that's something that can be established as well.
Great stuff. Great advice. Brilliant. Thanks for that. So I guess moving away and then sort of segueing into the GRC space and what it looks like now versus, say, 5 years from now. So you got all the artificial intelligence. That was all sort of a big topic 6-12 months ago. Still is, although some of the noise has gone away. From your kind of own take, being you're an experienced director in this space, how do you think the GRC landscape will look compared to now in 5 years' time?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of movement in the GRC space with respect to the tools that are available. I think this is the time for GRC. It's getting all the love right now, and I'm super jazzed about that. We are seeing a couple of things. With the evolving threat landscape, we have to keep pace with what the bad actors are doing, and AI is obviously a big piece of that. So, kind of on the offensive and the defensive side, there's things that are happening. So the bad actors, they're using AI to create these like smarter, more sophisticated attacks. They are creating more personalized social engineering attempts, which we're seeing in the hospitality space. They can automate these attacks in large scale. So, those are things that we have to get ahead of. So on the GRC side, we need to be constantly evolving to stay ahead of that. And we are already seeing AI baked into some products already, which is exciting. So I think GRC automation and integration, I think that's going to be all the rage in the next couple of years. We have very specialized GRC systems, and I think that moving away from those silos and getting those more integrated into the other cybersecurity tools is what we're going to see, so that we can do better data collection, analysis, reporting. And I think we're going to be getting a little bit more proactive with our risk management. And I think having that data and AI capabilities is going to allow us to be able to do that. And of course, in the cloud space, cloud is virtually inescapable. So securing the cloud environments, I think, is going to be a top priority for any GRC solution. Yeah. How do you, bake all those controls in and integrate with other cloud security tools?
Yeah, it's a big moving part at the moment. So you've got DSPM, data security, posture management, making a lot of noise, and that's just been sort of gaining traction in the US. It hasn't really just yet in the UK, but it's starting to evolve. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the cloud space and the cloud journey and the risk around moving the data is what's everyone's talking about at the moment. So with that said, then, I mean, do you see, especially like you're from the hospitality space at the moment, and then obviously that's a well-targeted, well-documented, targeted industry. There's lots of moving parts, cross-border regs, all that kind of stuff. Do you see the hospitality industry kind of at the forefront of the technology sort of boom in GRC, or do you see that it's got a lot of work to do and catching up to do?
I think that the hospitality industry is moving leaps and bounds in the technology space. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, there's IoT. I mean, you can get into you can bypass the front desk, check in on your phone, go straight to room, and then you can connect to your own personal Netflix. You can control your thermostat. You can have all of your settings in there. Your thermostat could even potentially be set for what you want when you walk into the room. So there are definitely, there's a lot of tech that's happening in hospitality. So, with that, we also have critical data. So we have lots of, data's the new gold. Hotel points are money. So we're protecting, our customers, our employees, or an employer data. So it's no different in the hospitality industry than anywhere else. But we do see some trends that I think, actually the Verizon data breach investigation report just came out. And I think that some of the trends that we see are in the accommodations section there as well. So, I'm not a breach analyst, but I would argue that a lot of the bad actor motivation that we see is likely, it's financial. They're looking to crack those credit cards, to get those points. We've got phishing, social engineering remaining at the top of the list. Yep. So we see employees being tricked into buying gift cards. We've got the scams where a C-suite individual is impersonated in an attempt to secure financial data. More labor intensive is a person physically trying to gain access to a secure room or access guest financial data or points through a front desk personnel interaction. So there's lots of different ways that this can happen. So, education and phishing training are definitely top of mind. We also see, point of sale and data breach attacks there. So that's a major concern. We've got food and beverage, all sorts of places in a hotel where you can purchase things. So, the bad actors are looking for, names, addresses, credit card details. Even in the countries that require passports, that data is stored somewhere. So, you've got to make sure that all those components and pieces are all secured. And then recently, last year, we saw the MGM ransomware attack. This year, we had the Omni Hotel ransomware attack. So ransomware is definitely there, which just brings down the operations of a hotel. And if you can't get to the website, you can't book a room. And when you can't book a room, then that impacts the revenue stream. Yeah. So that's definitely a challenge. And then, of course, the Internet of Things. So all of those things that you can do with your phone in your room, the smart devices, the locks, the thermostats, the TVs, those are all points for bad actors to access the network.
Yeah. No,
so it's very similar to a lot of other industries, but it does have its nuances.
Yeah, and I guess so. We hear by talking to a lot of different people in the industry that ransomware and is still very much up there, but the human error piece, it just comes around all the time. As I think some of the reports out there was that human error was still very much one of the top three. How the bad actors gain access to secure data or financial data or whatever. So I guess while there's front of house or the human interaction piece, whether you're an insurance company and somebody picks the phone up and they have to talk to somebody and they think they're talking to the CEO, welcome them to the team, all that kind of stuff, then I guess the importance lies probably more importantly these days to training and awareness programs and so on. What are you seeing in that space, and are you seeing organizations really ramp up that side? Because tech's great, and like you mentioned, all the IT sort of capabilities that I can put my heating on, draw my curtains with my phone, all this kind of stuff, but the human bit, and there's always been training and awareness programs, yet it still seems to be that the same mistakes still sort of happen quite regularly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that can be a challenge. I think, CISOs, they've got to balance a budget, just like anybody else. And you have to do your analysis for where you're going to get the most return on investment. So, there are some challenges there to make sure that you do have a robust awareness training program. But I do see, same with phishing. I think, it used to be sort of a one size fits all. Go through your compliance training, send out a phish a month and check your box. But I don't think that, the check the box compliance is going to work going forward. And with human error, you've got the innocent mistakes, people are going to click on things. People get tricked, things look real. And especially with the hospitality industry, we want to be hospitable. You want a gift card? Of course, I'm going to help you get a gift card. I would love to. I couldn't be happier to help you solve whatever problem you have. So that's one of the challenges, sort of finding that balance between, being hospitable and kind, but also being hyper vigilant about what's really happening. So, you've got the unintentional human error with that, and you've got misconfigurations that can happen at any point along the code journey, and then you have, of course, your malicious, more kind of insider threat situation, which is a little different. So I think in the training awareness space, we're definitely seeing a lot more with gaming, a lot more with targeted and customizable ways we can train different populations based on their role within the organization. So more of that like role-based training, whether you work at the front desk or you're in finance or you're in human resources, you might be seeing different kinds of attacks. So it's like, what do they look like and what should I look out for? Because they may be very sneaky, but very, very different depending on who you are and what you do in the organization.
Yeah. And are you seeing then, because it was only the other day, the bank I bank with in the UK changed the way that you got to put your password in, you got to do this now, there's another layer, and you think, oh, but then you think, well, actually no, that's fine, that's good, I get that, because they're trying to protect all the time. And only an hour before we hooked up on here, one of my colleagues is on holiday and vacation and sent me a quick email to say, was this you? And he got a PayPal amount, can you pay this? And I text him back, not on email, to say, no, that's not me, it's spam, whatever. Do you think then that the sort of the public are really open now to, look, okay, I don't mind if it's going to take me a little bit longer to check in, I don't mind if I've got to go through a little bit of a process, because I don't want my data being out there, but I've heard all the stories, everybody's kind of quite familiar now, aren't they, with these big major, whether it's MGM or T-Mobile or whoever it is, the recent sort of big ones, people they don't continually want their data, their credit card details, and get an email from an organization in hospitality to say, oh, can you change your passwords on all your credit cards because we've been hacked? So do you think, are they more open to the sort of concept of these processes being a little bit more robust?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know that anyone loves it, when you're logging into your bank website and then they're like, okay, well, we have to text you your code, and you're like, oh, my phone's in the other room, and now you have to go get it and bring it back in and to finish this transaction. But multi-factor, all the things, is a no-brainer at this point. I think people do appreciate the protections that companies are putting in place, and I think they expect it. I do get surprised when I hear that there are breaches and the company didn't have MFA in place. It's like, what? It's 2024. You have to have that. At least you have to have MFA. So, I think people are getting used to it, and I think just as people get used to it, we're going to find new ways of dealing with identity. We have zero trust architecture is obviously something that has been hot for the last year or two. So we're going to see a lot more of that. Really, what's happening in the identity space, and how can we identify people in new ways to create a seamless experience? Because the more friction that you have in the experience, the less revenue that it means for the company, and companies are in business to make money. So we do have to keep that in mind, but at the same time, we have a duty to protect the data and build that digital trust. And I think that people are going to expect a level of digital trust with the people that they're doing business with, the companies that they're doing business with in the future.
Yeah. Okay. And so there's loads to do. CISOs are well under pressure. Evolving technology, AI, all of the bad guys out there, the bad actors, and so on. So there's a whole host of this work out there, and it seems to be gaining traction where it's cybersecurity. It's a great industry to get into, as we discussed earlier, but it's also kind of having we're hearing some negative results where people are starting to look at are we getting to sort of burnout level here because budgets for cybersecurity functions, and like you said, it's a business, it's there to generate revenue, there's shareholders, etc. So it's return on investment, and I guess my next question would be, are you seeing signs of burnout in the industry?
Yeah, I definitely think it's real. And I think one of the biggest return on investments can be investing in your employees and making sure that they're happy and healthy and growing and contributing, because when all those pieces are in place, then they deliver more, and that's what you want, right? So with cybersecurity, though, it can be a 24/7 by 365 job for some. We don't see that frequently in the GRC space, but there are times where it's all hands on deck. But with this kind of industry where things are just moving at light speed, and now we've got AI to wrestle with, which is obviously a game changer, it can feel daunting. And, burnout is really, I actually looked it up, it's the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged or excessive stress. And all I can think about is our incident response folks.
Yeah.
that are just dealing with that. So, I mean, it's really no surprise that we're seeing burnout, especially in the cybersecurity space, where there's just, this constant pressure of the evolving threat landscape. You're constantly on guard, defending against it. There can be long hours. For our IR folks, the ones who are monitoring the systems, we hear the skills shortage, that the cybersecurity industry has got a talent gap, which puts more pressure on the existing teams. Although that could be its own show, talking about recruiting in the cybersecurity space. But many teams, you got budgets to contend with. They run lean, and it can really tax those, even those who are less prone to burnout. It can end up being a lot. And I think in some organizations, I haven't seen this a lot, but it might be out there that there may be a feeling of, undervalued because you're trying and struggling to get these security initiatives off the ground and funded. And in organizations where security may be more of an afterthought, you might see some of that, unmotivated team members. But I think there's a lot of things that people can do as individuals, as well as organizations to combat burnout.
And you're right. I mean, we hear it a lot in the instant response space, where there's 24/7 shifts and that kind of stuff. And I guess that's the fix for that is they've got to hire more people and have bigger teams and smaller shifts. But even in the GRC space, where you might be doing Monday to Friday or even a 4-day week. I don't know whether the 4-day week has really kicked off in the US. It's going to be a traction in the UK. But you might have all these project initiatives, new regs coming out and so on. So you've got your day job anyway. Then on top of that, you've got all these new things that you've got to do. So there's only so many hours in a day, right? So there is that pressure, and then you go further up the chain and you get to the CISO space, and we're even hearing sort of, do people really want to become CISOs anymore because of the new regs and because of the extra daunting sort of legal responsibilities and all that kind of stuff, and and they get to sort of that board interaction, and it's so I've got the cybersecurity function, I've got the business, I've got the board, and there's me, and then I'm having dinner at Saturday night at 5 o'clock, and the number two says, we're under attack, and it's like, wow. So it's maybe there's some work to do there, I think, but we can see maybe there's a bit of movement, I think, happening, and I think maybe that's what needs to happen, so organizations can actually go, right, okay, look, if we don't address this, we're going to lose some really top quality people here, because they're going to go to the organizations that put the budget into these the programs and the tech and the tooling and the welfare of their teams, even if they haven't been attacked, opposed to let's wait to be attacked and then we'll do it kind of mentality. There's quite a few of those people, but the welfare piece is gaining a lot of conversation. So it's interesting that your thoughts on that. Do you fancy being a CISO?
Not particularly, or maybe I should say not right now at this moment.
No, good answer. All right, cool. Okay. So thank you for that. And we always like to ask everybody, it's great to have you on here because we've done a lot in the instant response and sort of ransomware, digital forensic and some other areas recently. So it's nice to have somebody really experienced in the GRC space. What would be your, if you like, one piece of advice to the next generation coming through that if you had one piece, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. Put me on the spot. So one of the things that has really helped me in the last couple of years is, and I mentioned this earlier, is finding your people, is finding that group that is just really nurturing of what you're doing and can support you, whether that be online or in person. I think that is really critical. People that are there where you can just share all the things that are going on and help you with your journey. I think that for me is one of the most critical things, to to feel supported and be surrounded by people that are on a similar journey as I am, but maybe at a different point. And you can really gain a lot of value and insight from folks who are just starting this journey, as well as folks who have been in it for 20 or 25 years. So there's just a lot to be gained from that.
Yeah, nice. Good advice. And I think, yeah, it comes back down again, doesn't it, to people communicating, networking, huge things.
Yeah, networking is amazing. It really, I mean, you know, it's not always going to get you a job. It may not always, you know, get you to that next point in your career, but it can certainly be a source of strength and inspiration and encouragement. And it could be exactly what you need.
Yeah, it helps build confidence as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Good stuff. Alana, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. As ever, would love to have you on again in the future. But yeah, really appreciate it, and wish you a fantastic rest of the year.
Thank you. Likewise.